All right, joining us now, Chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, Congressman Steven Horsford of Nevada. Congressman, there's two tracks here in terms of analyzing what happened yesterday and putting it in historical perspective. Charlie Sykes summed it up beautifully early on the show. The stupidity just burns here because it's political malpractice. Political heroes have been born yesterday in light of this dramatic situation at the State House. At the same time, I want to ask you about the concern about the racism that many are alleging here, given that these two lawmakers who were expelled from the State House were black, and the one woman who did exactly what they did, they broke some rules of decorum, was not expelled. And you have to then look at the bigger picture. Those who have been expelled in the past, in the history of this state legislature, have committed serious offenses, disgusting offenses, one even urinating on a chair. And you have the Republicans saying that what these three did was similar to January 6th. The hypocrisy, let alone the racism, is running high, many would say. And what concerns you about that aspect of this dramatic unfolding?
Well, thank you, Mika, for having me on. The Congressional Black Caucus, our members met by Zoom last night with members from the Tennessee legislature, the Black Caucus, as well as black legislators from across the country. And yes, this is about race, and it's also about democracy. And the Congressional Black Caucus is calling on four things today. Number one, we want the local communities in Nashville and Shelby counties to appoint Representative Jones and Pearson back to the seats that they were initially elected to and have now been expelled from while a special election is conducted. Number two, we're calling on Attorney General Garland of the Department of Justice to look into Tennessee under Section 6 of the Civil Rights Act to determine whether or not they have violated the non-discriminatory clause of federal law, because they have received billions of dollars of federal funding. Number three, we're calling on every CEO and board of directors in the state of Tennessee to condemn the House GOP actions in Tennessee, because this is bad for business in the state of Tennessee, and it cannot set a precedence in other states. And finally, we're calling on the Tennessee legislature to join with the gun violence prevention groups that called for action, and the representatives that have now been expelled, because not only is it Tennessee 3, but it's 3 dead children who are 9 years old, 3 dead adults at the hands of gunmen at a Christian school. So where are the Christians on this weekend of Easter calling for the condemnation of the actions taken by the Tennessee legislature, which speak to the democracy and race issues in this country?
I think it's important to point out that what the Tennessee Three were doing was trying to speak for those children and those adults who had been killed just days before. It kind of shows just how broken our system is at the state level. And I wonder where you think that comes from, where you have legislators in state houses not reflecting what the will of the people is on a number of key issues.
Well, you're absolutely right. And it's an ideology. Not only are they against making our community safe from gun violence in our schools and our communities, but they're also against taking away women's rights to make their own health care decisions. They're more concerned with banning trans than they are with upholding the Constitution and the democratic values of our nation. And what has happened in Tennessee cannot happen in any other state. And that is why the Congressional Black Caucus is calling for decisive steps to be taken, and will be following up with those local officials as well as the Attorney General.
Congressman, Mika alluded to this a moment ago, but earlier this week, Tennessee House Speaker Cameron Sexton compared the violence, the protest over gun violence there in Tennessee to what happened at the United States Capitol on January 6th. Let's listen.
It was an insurrection. What they did was equivalent, at least equivalent, maybe worse, depending on how you look at it, of doing an insurrection in the Capitol.
That's the Speaker of the House there in Tennessee, drawing a line between the attack on the United States Capitol, in which many people went to the Capitol based on a lie, attacked police officers, desecrated the Capitol, to a group of people, students, many of them, coming to the Capitol in Nashville for a peaceful protest after the slaughter of 3 9-year-olds and 3 staff members at a school just up the road from there. What do you do with that kind of rhetoric? Because it's not just Speaker Sexton, but I know you hear a lot of this kind of stuff in the House yourself.
It's disgraceful for those of us that were at the Capitol on January 6th and witnessed not only an attack on the U.S. Capitol, but the attack on the fundamental principles of our democracy. Look, I've seen peaceful protests. We've seen the late Congressman John Lewis kneel in the well of the U.S. Capitol to call for reform on gun safety. You cannot equate what these 2 young men in Tennessee did to insurrectionists who literally beat Capitol Police. We had deaths on the day of January 6th because of the insurrection that was incited because of this ideological rhetoric. So again, the Speaker of Tennessee is just absurd in his comparison. There's nothing further from the truth. This was a peaceful protest for what? For the safety of our children in their schools, in our communities, for the elimination of assault weapons, warlike weapons that are in our schools and in our communities that are wreaking havoc on our children, their bodies, and their safety. That is what Representative Jones and Representative Pearson and Representative Johnson were speaking about. 2 of them were expelled, the youngest Black men serving in the Tennessee legislature. I'm glad that Representative Johnson was not, but she herself said that it was because of her skin color that she was not. That speaks to democracy and race in our country.
Congressman, we hear the passion in your voice as you talk about this, and so many people in the country share it. The trivializing of what happened on January 6th, to which you bore witness, and also the dismissal, the craven dismissal of the concerns of young people about staying safe from gun violence in their schools. We appreciate your voice on this, sir. The chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, Congressman Steven Horsford. Stephen, Congressman, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Mika?
Absolutely.